Welcome to today's deep dive. So imagine waking up and before your feet even hit the floor, your brain just starts feeding you this narrative of complete, absolute despair.
Oh, yeah. A total heavy, suffocating apathy.
Exactly. And your mind immediately jumps to the conclusion that, like, your life is off track, you're failing, nothing is worth doing.
Right, you just assume you're staring down the barrel of a major depressive episode.
Yeah, but what if your body is just simply trying to tell you that its primary battery is completely drained? Like, what if that profound sadness is really just an interpretation of a physical power failure?
It's a massive paradigm shift.
It totally is. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating working paper. It's called Guide to Fatigued Energy Management by Lev Nemotin. And it essentially takes the standard narrative of depression, mood, and energy and just flips it completely upside down.
Yeah, it really invites you on this deeply personal intellectual journey. I mean, Nemotin has spent years thinking about the human body, not as some cold, static machine, but almost like this intricate science fiction switchboard.
A sci-fi switchboard. I love that image.
Right, it's this highly coordinated, interrelated energy system. And it's built for one very specific purpose, which he calls the body's native desire to live.
Wow.
Yeah, and when that system is, well calibrated, life just comes online naturally. You adapt to stress, repair cellular damage, and you effortlessly engage with the world.
But the core mission of our deep dive today is looking at what happens when that sci-fi switchboard starts to glitch out.
Exactly.
Because Nemotin proposes a framework that completely changes how we view mental health at its earliest stages. He suggests that when this amazing system starts failing, the very first warning light on the console isn't a dark mood.
No, it's not a sudden loss of philosophical hope or anything.
Right. It might simply be fatigue,
Mm.
just a profound physical loss of drive. And if you ignore that warning light, like if you just write it off as, oh, I just need another cup of coffee,
You might be missing the critical window to stop a much deeper slide.
that's the hook right there. Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to imagine your body as this massive electrical grid. If a neighborhood suddenly goes completely dark, you don't instantly blame the houses.
Or the people inside them.
Right. You don't question their moral character. You check the power lines. You look for a physical interruption in the current.
That is the exact central sequence this whole paper rests on. Energy distribution begins to fail, which leads to physical fatigue, which eventually hardens into depression.
Which is wild because we are all incredibly accustomed to a top-down narrative. Like,
Yeah.
the standard view usually claims that your thoughts darken, you experience a psychological shift, and
And then as a secondary result of that sadness, your physical body slows down and you feel exhausted.
the mind just dragging the body down into the dark.
And I mean, that happens, sure. But Nemotin suggests reversing the order of explanation for a really large subset of people.
Okay, so the body leads.
Exactly. Think about an organism that first loses the basic physical ability to wake fully. Or they lose the vascular ability to tolerate standing up for more than a few minutes.
Oh, wow.
Or even their cells just lose the ability to recover after doing a normal everyday task like washing the dishes.
Right.
This isn't abstract sadness, It is a structural, measurable drop in the organism's ability to bring usable energy online.
But, okay, if there is a physical power failure on our internal grid, how does that actually translate into a complex mental state like clinical depression?
Well, when a bodily underpowering persists day after day, the mind steps in to do what it does best, which is interpretation.
The brain is just a relentless meaning-making machine.
Exactly. It evolved to constantly monitor the physical state of the body and then create a conscious narrative to explain it.
So if your body has absolutely zero usable energy to give for weeks on end,
The brain scans your environment and your life to figure out why.
oh, I see. It manufactures a reason. Like if I feel physically heavy and inert, my brain isn't going to rationally say, oh, my cellular energy distribution is slightly off today.
No, of course not.
My brain is going to look at my inbox or my relationships or my bank account and say, everything is terrible. I'm fundamentally flawed. There is a threat everywhere.
Yes, the mental experience of depression becomes incredibly real to you, but the actual origin of that state was entirely physiological.
It's like the body-brain system can no longer reliably support engagement from within.
And the mind simply creates the story of despair to match the physical reality of the exhaustion.
Wait, hold on. I'm thinking about how psychiatry actually works right now. Like the reality of it.
Sure.
If depression is heavily rooted in physical energy distribution, what happens to the entire neurotransmitter model?
Oh.
Because we hear constantly about serotonin, dopamine, chemical imbalances in the brain. How does this energy switchboard account for the actual brain chemistry that antidepressants are designed to fix?
That's a great question. Nemotin is really careful to clarify that this framework does not throw out the neurotransmitter model.
Okay, good. So he's not rejecting psychology or psychiatry.
Not at all. What it does is resituate that brain chemistry within a much larger energetic reality. You really have to consider the sheer metabolic cost of thinking.
Thinking takes energy.
Massive amounts. Synapses, the microscopic gaps where neurons communicate with each other using chemicals like serotonin and dopamine, they are incredibly demanding sites.
They aren't just empty spaces, they're highly active chemical factories.
Exactly. To synthesize neurotransmitters from raw amino acids, package them into vesicles, push them across that synaptic gap, and then actively vacuum them back up to reset the receptors.
That sounds exhausting just describing it.
It is. All of that requires continuous, massive metabolic support. Specifically, it demands an astronomical amount of ATP, which is the basic energy currency of the cell.
And that ATP comes from where?
It's provided by local power plants called mitochondria, which are heavily supported by helper cells in the brain known as astrocytes.
Okay, so what's fascinating here is that the neurotransmitter imbalance we always talk about might actually be a downstream symptom, not the root cause.
Bingo. Disturbed neurotransmission just becomes an expression of a starving system.
Right. If the body's energy delivery is unstable upstream, the delicate synaptic balance in your brain is naturally going to collapse downstream.
Yes.
It's literally like trying to run a massive high-performance video editing software on a laptop with a failing battery.
That's a perfect analogy.
The software itself, the neurotransmitters, might not be corrupted at all. It just literally doesn't have the electrical juice to run the heavy processes. The hardware is starving the software.
Exactly. The paper really asks us to look at a patient presenting with apathy, psychomotor slowing, or a loss of drive, and ask, are we definitively looking at a primary neurotransmitter disorder? Or are we looking at an energy distribution system that has been pushed so far off balance that the brain simply cannot afford the biological cost of maintaining a positive mood?
That is mind-blowing. So, okay, if the battery is failing, the power lines are down, how do we locate the actual short circuit? We need to look at the switchboard's physical components.
Right. How does the energy actually move?
Yeah, from the food we eat straight to the synapses in our brain. How does it get there?
This is where Nemotin introduces the concept of gates.
Gates, okay.
Yeah, a gate is basically any local physical structure, biochemical pathway, or hormonal process that regulates whether energy moves forward smoothly, gets bottlenecked, or just flows unevenly.
And there are different layers of these gates, right?
Exactly. We can group them into 4 major functional layers.
Let's walk through them. Where does the current actually start?
It starts at the intake and buffering layer. This involves your gut, specifically the small intestine absorbing raw nutrients, and what's known as the portal liver route.
The portal liver route.
Yeah, think of the portal vein as a dedicated biological freight highway. It takes nutrients straight from your digestive tract directly to your liver.
And the liver sort of sorts it all out.
Exactly. It's sorted, buffered, and either stored for later or shipped out to the rest of the body.
Okay, so the liver acts as the intake warehouse. But having fuel sitting in a warehouse doesn't help if the delivery trucks are broken.
Right.
So how does the system transport it?
That brings us to the delivery layer. This is your fast distribution system.
So heart, lungs.
The heart, the lungs, major blood vessels, down to the microscopic capillaries. This gate determines whether oxygen and glucose actually arrive at the specific tissues demanding them exactly when they need them.
Okay, so we have intake and we have physical transport. Who acts as the traffic cop telling the delivery trucks how fast to drive?
That would be the endocrine layer.
Hormones.
Yes. Hormones like thyroid and insulin set the pace and control cellular access. Like your thyroid regulates your overall metabolic speed, dictating how fast the whole system runs.
And insulin.
Insulin acts as a literal key. It governs whether the glucose circulating in your blood is actually allowed to enter your muscle and brain cells.
Okay, and once it's inside the cell, there's one final step, right? The raw fuel has to be refined.
Exactly. The local conversion gate, this happens deep inside the cells within the mitochondria.
It's a power plant.
Right. Their sole job is taking that delivered glucose and oxygen and converting it into that usable currency we mentioned earlier, ATP.
So if the mitochondria are dysfunctional, it doesn't matter how much you eat or how well you breathe.
The cell just won't have power.
This raises a really important question about how we actually experience these power failures in real life. Because when one of these gates breaks down, it isn't always like a slow, linear rusting
Right.
process.
Not at all.
Sometimes they just slam shut. Moten discusses the concept of thresholds.
Yes,
Yeah.
thresholds are critical here. Sometimes energy vanishes or returns almost instantaneously, acting exactly like a mechanical switch. A perfect example is the substrate gate, which deals with blood sugar. Endocrine literature shows that when your blood sugar drops below a specific threshold, say around 50 milligrams per deciliter, you don't just feel a little sleepy.
You crash.
You cross what's called a neuroglycopenic threshold.
Neuroglycopenic meaning the brain is literally starved of sugar.
Exactly. At that specific number, the brain's energy reserves instantly deplete. You experience sudden cognitive fog, physical shakiness, and just a profound, overwhelming emotional collapse.
If you are listening to this, you have likely experienced this on some level. Like, have you ever been in a terrifying, despairing mood, absolutely convinced your career is failing and the world is ending?
And then you finally eat a solid meal.
Yes. You eat, and 20 minutes later, the dark cloud completely vanishes. It proves that our deepest, most complex emotional states are sometimes entirely governed by invisible physical thresholds.
And recognizing those threshold behaviors gives us immense agency.
Because we can do something about it.
Exactly. If these deeply negative emotional states are governed by physical gates, we have the opportunity to intervene mechanically before the brain permanently adopts the depressive narrative.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Moten outlines what he calls points of physical engagement.
These are so practical.
Yeah, they're symptom-triggered actions we can take to reopen the energy flow. He details 5 specific crash profiles. Let's go through them.
Okay, so the first one is the morning dead state. This points to a failure at the arousal gate.
The alarm goes off and
You wake up, but your system refuses to come online. The body feels completely unavailable, heavy, and your mood is incredibly dark before you even attempt to move.
the system is hovering just below the functional threshold to start the day. So the intervention here isn't to lie in bed trying to positively psych yourself up.
No, it's mechanical.
Right. You need immediate bright light exposure hitting your retinas to signal the hypothalamus that it's daytime.
You hydrate immediately to boost blood volume.
You avoid snoozing, which just confuses your sleep cycles.
And you use timed caffeine, if you tolerate it, to artificially kickstart the arousal networks in the brainstem.
So you are aggressively, physically cueing the nervous system to open the gate.
Exactly. Now, let's say the arousal gate opens, you get out of bed, but the moment gravity enters the equation, everything falls apart.
That brings us to the second profile, the upright crash.
Right. You feel totally fine, maybe even energetic when you're lying flat. But the second you stand up to make breakfast boom,
Your brain fogs over, your limbs feel like lead, and your drive just plummets.
this is a failure at the perfusion gate. It's a purely vascular delivery problem.
Like gravity is working against you.
Yes, when you stand up, gravity pulls a massive volume of blood down into your legs. A healthy cardiovascular system instantly tightens the blood vessels to pump it back up to the brain.
But sometimes it doesn't.
Right, in conditions like POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, the autonomic nervous system fails to make that adjustment.
So the brain is suddenly running on a massive oxygen deficit. Again, the fix isn't psychological.
You sit down.
Right. You elevate your legs to let gravity return the blood to your core. Or, if you absolutely must stand, you aggressively contract your calf and glute muscles.
Because those large leg muscles act as a secondary peripheral heart. They physically squeeze the veins to pump blood back up against gravity.
I mean, if your dark mood lifts just because you contracted your calves and restored blood delivery to your brain, that is a massive clue about the root of your fatigue.
Absolutely. Now, the third profile shifts from gravity to stagnation. This is the desk flattening crash.
Oh, I know this one.
Yeah, it's a movement activation problem. Prolonged sitting and immobility literally signal the body to power down, producing physical flattening, low alertness, and a creeping low mood.
Seriously, if you are listening to this at your desk right now and you've been staring at a screen for 3 hours straight without moving, your cerebral blood flow has measurably dropped.
You aren't losing your motivation for your job. Your brain is just suffocating.
So what's the intervention?
It's surprisingly simple, but it requires discipline. Frequent, short walking breaks. Just 2 to 5 minutes of actual movement every single hour.
You don't wait for the motivation to move to strike you.
Right. You use the physical movement to artificially reopen the vascular distribution and clear out the carbon dioxide buildup.
Love it. Okay, the fourth profile is the meal-length crash. We touched on this a bit earlier with the blood sugar threshold. This is a substrate gate issue.
Yes, you experience sudden irritability, muscle weakness, or a total emotional crash that is magically cured by eating.
Basically, fuel delivery has become highly unstable. The immediate rescue action is to eat and hydrate, obviously.
But the long-term structural fix is stabilizing your intake. You have to anchor your meals with protein and fiber to slow down absorption.
To avoid those extreme glycemic spikes and crashes that just violently open and close the substrate gate.
Exactly. Which brings us to the fifth and final profile, the push-through crash.
Oh, this one's insidious.
It really is. You have a task to do, you feel tired, but you force yourself to push through it anyway.
Hustle culture, right.
Right. And instead of just feeling normally tired afterward, you are physiologically punished by it for hours or even days afterward.
So this is a failure of the recovery gate.
It's a severe failure. It is classic post-exertional malaise, something deeply familiar to people dealing with conditions like ME/CFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis, or chronic fatigue syndrome.
Because when the local cellular mitochondria are broken, pushing them harder doesn't build endurance.
No, it causes cellular damage and massive lactic acid buildup. The system is literally screaming that it does not have the biological currency to recover from the effort you just spent.
So the intervention here is the exact opposite of everything modern hustle culture preaches.
Absolutely. The required tool here is intelligent retreat. You must stop the push-through.
You have to pace yourself.
Meticulously. If you try to aggressively exercise or power through the specific type of crash, you are literally teaching your nervous system that physical engagement is dangerous.
And the body will respond by driving you further into a state of protective shutdown. Now, I have to pause here because while doing calf raises at my desk or drinking water or taking a 5-minute walk sounds incredibly practical. A skeptic might hear this and say, wait, so, are you seriously suggesting that a handful of almonds and a quick walk is going to cure clinical severe depression? It sounds dangerously close to minimizing very real, devastating mental health struggles.
That is such an important point, and Nemotin addresses that skepticism directly by laying out very honest, firm limits to this framework.
Okay, so what are the limits?
He emphasizes that this is an exploratory working guide for a specific subset of fatigue-driven mood states. It is not a finished, universal medical doctrine.
It's not a silver bullet for all mental illness.
Far from it. He states explicitly that the switchboard model does not seamlessly apply to conditions like bipolar disorder, severe melancholic depression, psychotic depression.
Or mental states that are deeply rooted in acute psychological trauma or profound grief.
Right. Those human experiences require entirely different therapeutic and psychiatric frameworks.
And there are physiological red flags that completely overrule this kind of self-experimentation too.
Oh, absolutely. If you are experiencing sudden chest pain, severe shortness of breath, unexplained fainting, or rapid weight loss.
You don't sit around trying to figure out which gate is stuck. You go to a doctor.
Right. Furthermore, if a person is experiencing active suicidal intent, that is a medical emergency. Those situations require immediate professional medical and psychiatric care.
You do not try to treat critical emergencies with self-help pacing.
Exactly. The goal of this paper isn't to tear down the medical establishment or throw away antidepressants.
So what is the ultimate goal?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the goal is to join psychiatry with better, earlier physiological localization.
It's a really humane approach to human suffering.
It is. It's arguing that we shouldn't wait until a depressive state is completely organized, deeply entrenched, and the person's worldview has gone completely dark before we intervene.
It gives us a toolkit to interrupt the slide early. We can try to fix a mechanical malfunction at the fatigue stage, long before the loss of physical power translates into a total loss of hope.
And it completely removes the moral failing and the shame from being tired. You aren't fundamentally broken or lazy. You just have a gate stuck on your physical switchboard.
And you need to figure out how to unstick it. So fatigue transitions from being this vague, easily dismissed complaint into a vital, highly specific localization clue.
Exactly. Instead of just saying, I'm tired, we start asking, what specific kind of tired is this?
Is it a morning dead state? An upright crash?
A push-through penalty?
because each unique pattern points to a different failing gate, which gives us a completely different actionable intervention.
So what does this all actually mean for you, navigating your daily life? It means that the next time you feel a sudden, crushing wave of apathy,
Or that familiar heavy flattening of your mood where simply existing feels like too much work.
you have a new set of questions to ask yourself. Don't instantly allow your brain to assume that your life is falling apart. Take a breath, step back, and survey the physical gates. Ask yourself, am I upright when I should be sitting?
Have I been glued to this chair for 4 straight hours?
Did my blood sugar just crash because I skipped lunch?
By reading your body's early warning lights and intervening with simple mechanical changes, light, posture, movement, or food, you might be taking a profound protective action against a much darker stake.
Which brings us right back to the image we started with. The body as an intricate sci-fi switchboard, an electrical grid designed to keep your desire to live burning brightly.
And we've seen how a physical power failure in the hardware can ripple upward, right? Starving the software and tricking the conscious mind into spinning a narrative of total despair.
Yeah, it really reframes everything.
It does. And that leaves us with a truly wild thought to chew on. If our minds are constantly subconsciously narrating our body's physical energy state, just to make sense of it, what other deep-seated personality traits do we carry around?
Oh, that's interesting.
Think about the persistent moods or attitudes we view as just who we are. Like, maybe you think of yourself as naturally cynical or unmotivated or constantly anxious. What if those aren't permanent fixtures of your soul, but simply reflections of how well your internal sci-fi switchboard happens to be wired on any given day?
It completely blurs the line between our identity and our biological energy flow.
Right. It suggests we are much more dynamic and perhaps much more repairable than we ever realized.
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
Something to seriously mull over the next time you feel your power start to dip. Keep an eye on those warning lights.